Well, welcome to the 700 Club. President Trump is set to declare a national emergency. Today, he signs a spending bill to keep the government open, and at the same time, he'll take executive action to get funds for a border wall.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy tells CBN News he backs the president's move. In a wide-ranging interview with Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson, McCarthy said the president is within his rights to protect the southern border.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy tells CBN News he supports President Trump declaring a national emergency to fund the border wall, even though it's almost certain to face a lengthy legal challenge.
There is a national emergency along this border, and the president has the right to do that. He wants to get, if you listen to the experts, and that's what this does, if you listen to the experts, they need about a little over 200 more miles of wall. It's not sea to shining sea. It's in the areas where we have our biggest problems.
McCarthy feels confident they'll get the wall built.
This president works very hard at keeping his promises, and this is one of his biggest.
And says he sees the bipartisan compromise bill as a down payment.
I think we'll get it done, because when you look at this, with Nancy Pelosi saying only $1 for the wall, now we're getting about $1.4 billion, and we'll get the rest. They were going to eliminate ICE. No, we got more money from them. They're going to eliminate beds. Not able to do that. I think this is not a 100% victory, but it's a 1-2 step that we can finish the job completely.
Another top issue for McCarthy right now, passing the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act.
If a child is born alive, you got to do every medical possible to save it. So if they're trying to have an abortion and the baby survives, you've got to save that life.
McCarthy and other Republicans are trying to bring the bill to the House floor each day, but keep getting blocked by Democrats.
We're going to ask every single day, and then we'll start a discharge petition to make sure to bring this bill forward.
For that, he'll need 218 signatures, which will be tough in the Democrat-controlled House.
This should not be a partisan issue. Everybody should be able to support this.
And he believes this will be a big issue in 2020.
And when I sit back and look at what this new Democrat majority is doing, one, holding us back from Born Alive protection, two, this new Green Deal, which would eliminate cars, you'd have to remodel every house, every building. It'd eliminate millions of jobs. And then you look at the want to raise taxes. I mean, it's not what I think the American public was looking for.
What do you make of Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar's recent comments that seem to go against the Democrat Party's historically pro-Israel stance?
I think it's a changing Democratic Party. When you talk to many of the new Democrat members, they don't even call themselves Democrats. They're now the new Democrat Socialist Party. And this is the younger, more aggressive, and this is what's taking over the Democratic Party.
Despite bipartisan outcry from Congresswoman Omar's comments suggesting lawmakers support Israel because of lobbyist money, it doesn't appear Democrat leadership will remove her from committee assignments, including House Foreign Affairs. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
When the president declares the national emergency in order to appropriate this funding for a border wall, expect almost within the moment he does it, expect a lawsuit to be filed. And we're going to get into a constitutional challenge. Here's what Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution says. No money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. Now, that's what the Constitution says, and now we're into, well, what are the courts going to say about what the Constitution says? Under the Obama administration, the court said that Obama did not have the power to appropriate money to help fund Obamacare if that money wasn't specifically appropriated by a resolution from a law passed by Congress. So his actions to help fund that and help fund the various insurance exchanges were all struck down by the courts. Now we're into a completely different matter, and that's called a national emergency. So you look at what are the various laws that Congress has already passed. We have a law on immigration. There's a reason we call people illegal immigrants. And so if illegal immigrants are coming across a border, does the president have the power to appropriate funds to stop that? Is that already a law that's been passed? We have lots of laws about the importation of illegal drugs, and we're having an opioid crisis in America today, and the primary source of all of that is Mexico. So is there an emergency? Well, that's up to interpretation. Are there current laws on the books that would support the president's actions? Again, that's up to interpretation. Unfortunately, we're all just going to have to wait for the courts to decide. So the sooner that can happen, the sooner we can come to some kind of conclusion. Where are we going from here? We are certainly going, and there's no bipartisan unity here. We're going to see 2 years of constant struggle between this president and Congress. And his declaration will absolutely spark a new fight in Congress. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That's right, Gordon. Democrats and even some Republicans say President Trump's move sets a dangerous precedent. As Dale Hurd reports, the president felt his only option was to go around Congress.
Democrats may have thought they had blocked President Trump's drive to finally build a wall on the Mexican border, but the president has another plan. After announcing Thursday that President Trump would sign a border security compromise that gave him only $1.4 billion for a wall, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell added a surprise announcement.
He's prepared to sign the bill. He will also be issuing a national emergency declaration at the same time.
The plan would allow the White House to move $8 billion from various federal agencies to fund the wall.
The bottom line is on the wall, we're building the wall, and we're using other methods.
Democrats are calling it a lawless act and a gross abuse of power. And House Speaker Nancy Pelosi answered with a veiled threat that such a precedent could come back to haunt conservatives.
If the president can declare an emergency on something that he has created as an emergency, an illusion that he wants to convey, just think of what a president with different values can present to the American people.
The state of emergency is expected to be challenged in court, but Hans von Spakovsky of the Heritage Foundation tells CBN News the president has the authority to do so.
He can do it. It all depends on the White House finding money that's already been appropriated but isn't tied to a specific purpose.
So the House and Senate passed spending package that averts another government shutdown is headed to the president's desk for his signature. But it also sets up a big showdown over his declaration of a national emergency. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Thanks, Dale. Top officials in the Justice Department reportedly discussed the possibility of using the 25th Amendment to remove President Trump from office after he fired former FBI Director James Comey. That's according to the Bureau's acting director at the time, Andrew McCabe, who also says he ordered an investigation into possible obstruction of justice by the president and his ties to Russia. In an interview airing this Sunday on 60 Minutes, McCabe told CBS's Scott Pelley he wanted to put the investigation on record.
Were I removed quickly or reassigned or fired, that the case could not be closed or vanish in the night without a trace.
McCabe also says Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein discussed wearing a recording device in his meetings with the president. The Justice Department told CBS News that McCabe's account is inaccurate and factually incorrect. McCabe spoke to 60 Minutes ahead of the release of his new book. He was fired by the FBI after an inspector general's report accused him of misleading federal investigators. He denies those charges. Gordon, pretty unprecedented stuff here.
Well, it's really unprecedented in American history. You have to go back to Roman history and you find the Praetorian Guard. They were initially tasked with protecting the emperor and protecting his person. And so the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, has been formed by Congress in order to particularly organize crime. You know, the roots of it really go back to Prohibition. So you look at a group created to protect the nation, and here they're having discussions about removing a sitting president, an elected president. The FBI has nothing to do with that and no function at all. So for them to have even discussions about it absolutely amazes me. With the Praetorian Guard, what they became were the emperor makers. They felt it was within their power to remove an emperor, usually by killing them, and then within their power to put a new emperor in. So if we have people in the FBI saying it's our power, our duty, in order to unseat a democratically elected president, we've gone way too far. This is just sort of beyond belief for me. Praetorian Guard, have we gotten to that level? There's a reason Mr. McCabe was fired from the FBI, and it's amazing he's still getting a whole lot of press for it. But for me, this is a shameful moment in our history, that you actually had active conversations within the FBI how to remove a newly elected president. That should scare us all. That should never happen. The article that they were discussing is entirely up to the president's own cabinet to decide. The FBI should never be involved in it.